The 7 weeks from Easter and Pentecost are filled with joy. Each day, we live with our ancestors in the faith, the community of the first apostles, idealized as they may be by their author. As we celebrate the sacraments of new birth in our own community, we relive those moments of new birth and growth recounted by Luke in the 2nd volume of his book. New members, as they were in several places, were added each day. Why do we read Acts day after day in the days and weeks after Easter? Of course, because these are the stories of our ancestors in the faith. Even if, as we now know, they are somewhat idealized, they are meant to inspire us. In today's portion of Acts, we continue to follow Paul's adventures and travails. Everywhere they went, Paul, Barnabas, Silas, and the others met opposition. They kept on preaching and doing wonderful deeds in Jesus' name. At Philippi, as at other stops on the journey, Paul is attacked and beaten and imprisoned. We have to wonder what we would have thought if we had been members of the community at Philippi. If we had heard his impassioned preaching and seen the healings, and then seen him flogged and chained up. As we learned yesterday, he met Lydia there, and there she listened to Paul, and he opened her heart, and certainly her mind as well. And she and her household were baptized. Paul was willing to accept the leadership of a woman who brought her whole household into the community. What would we have thought of that? Yet, they were in fact much like us. The story of Acts, the beautiful beginning in Jerusalem, Pentecost, and the early community. But then the disputes begin. Luke did draw an ideal picture at the very beginning. How long did it last? The first dispute, of course, was about property, that of Ananias. But then there was the important question about the Gentiles. It seems that the question of what to do about outsiders, that is, Gentiles, was a thorny one from the beginning. Paul was pretty sure. He had a very, very inclusive worldview and theology in embracing all God's children, a worldview we are trying to emulate. But disputes continued, just as they have throughout the centuries and still today. But Paul kept up his impassioned preaching, as does our current Pope of Peace. So what does the book of Acts have to teach us? We see a community like our own, not perfect by any means, but willing to dialogue with one another and with the world around it. A community willing to confront and engage over existential issues. For they were indeed existential issues. The survival of their community and of the young Jesus movement. As Rabbi Gamliel is quoted as saying, "Fellow Israelites, be careful what you are about to do to these men. If this endeavor or this activity is of human origin, it will destroy itself. But if it comes from God, you will not be able to destroy them. How willing are we to engage in the existential issues of our time, of our country, of our church?